It's a clear, crisp evening in Arkham, Massachusetts. You are sitting in the foyer room of the International Historical and Archaeological Society. Um, you're alone, sitting in the room with the elderly Professor Duncan Edwards. Remember, Edwards, sort of a portly man with a short beard and short gray hair.
Hmm.
Kind of looks like a Professor Santa Claus, if you will.
Okay.
Um, Professor Edwards is sitting at the piano, but in the center of the room, but it's closed because it doesn't seem like he ever plays or attempts to play. And he has a serious expression on his face. Before I start, please describe Anson for me.
Okay. Well, Anton is first and foremost big. He's broad shouldered, muscular. He's for this particular meeting, he's dressed in a suit that seems maybe a little threadbare, a little out of style by a couple years, um, and seems to fit him fairly poorly. Uh, he looks more like a without the suit. He looks more like a dock worker than an investigative journalist. Um, he's got sandy hair and a popular hairstyle that seems maybe a week or two in need of a trim. He's clean shaven, blue eyes. Um, yeah,
All
that's
right.
him.
All right. So, Edwards looks at you, serious expression on his face, says, "This is a little short notice, I understand, but it's a serious matter. One of our, let's say, he's a graduate student here at Biscatonic, had been studying abroad. He's comes from a wealthy family. He can afford to travel for long periods of time. He happened to be in Tibet, which you may or may not know is sort of restrictive when it comes to Western visitors. He returned from Tibet a couple weeks ago. He was ill and mentally handicapped. He went and sought out treatment at an institution in New York State before going home to his family home in Springfield, Massachusetts. Then, just a few days ago, something serious happened. It seems that Samuel Avery threw himself out of his third floor bedroom window. I want to find out what he knew, what he left behind. So if you would be so kind to go to this family estate in Springfield, see if you can speak to Samuel's parents, see if you can take a close look around Samuel's bedroom. Maybe he left something behind, some clues as to what he encountered, what drove him to this level of insanity. Um, Professor Ramsey, my colleague here, is already prepping to go to Tibet on an expedition. He was originally going to go and join Mr. Avery in Tibet when Samuel came back home. So, if you please, go to Springfield. That's all I ask of you.
Well, certainly, that sounds like a
And
job that's right up my alley.
he's actually going to give you, if I can get it, a newspaper clipping. That happens to be the death announcement for Samuel Avery that had been in the newspaper a couple days ago.
All right. And Don takes it and reads it over.
Yeah, world famous explorer and anthropologist Samuel Avery was found dead yesterday afternoon. The inquiry proceeds, but sources say his death has been ruled an accident, the apparent result of a fall or leap from his third-story bedroom window. After a long sojourn in the wilds of Tibet, Avery had returned stateside in ill health, and after a brief stay at the Buffalo State Hospital, returned to his childhood home in convalescence. Jon and Sarah Avery returned home from a fundraising dinner in Hartford, only to discover their son's lifeless body. So what would you like to do? Gonna head into Springfield and
Yeah, I don't see where any particular amount of prep is necessary.
all right.
Right off the bat, I don't know special outfitting or anything, and Springfield's not a small town anyway, so if I need anything, I should be able to find it there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I will head out. He doesn't have a car, so he'll take a bus or a train, whatever's
I would
available.
guess that there's several trains that go from Arkham through most of Massachusetts, including Springfield.
Right. Yeah, so he'll get himself a train ticket right away and pack light and go on out.
All right. So the train arrives later that same day in Springfield, and Springfield is a relatively large city, one of the largest cities in Massachusetts, aside from like Boston and Arkham. So it's crowded. There are a lot of people around, and it's not difficult to get directions to the Avery. I'm going to call it a mansion because it's a big house. The Avery mansion in Springfield is at the top of a small hill connected to the main road by a long, winding driveway that is artfully decorated with flowers and small shrubs. The whole property is surrounded by an iron gate, and there is a small, I would say maybe a guard shack type situation right outside the front gate.
Okay. So they're fairly well to do. Can I get a sense of how old the house might be? Just, is it fairly new construction or is it?
Well, it's definitely got a Gothic design to it. You don't know how recent the construction was, just from a quick view of basically from 100 yards away.
Judging by the style, though.
Yeah. I mean, it could have been built anywhere in the last 50 years, but you wouldn't be able to get more specific than that.
All right. Yeah, I will. I assume I probably took a cab or something from the bus station the home, so I will get out and pay the cab driver and approach the guard shack.
Yeah, a guard comes out. He's young, a little younger than you, kind of thin. Um, he's wearing a suit that's a little too big for him. Um, he doesn't look like he's carrying any kind of weapons. Um, Skin is all pockmarked, kind of a little geeky, thick ribbed glasses. And he approaches you when he sees you getting out of the cab. Can I help you?
Yeah, let me ask you a question. Um, was he expected?
No,
Was Anton expected? No.
no.
Okay. And was I told or given any inclination that his family would know about the society
Well, you had been
if I were to
told
bring it up?
that he was sort of a member of the society, but how
Hmm.
much he'd ever spoken about it outside of school, you don't know.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll approach the guard and I say, "Hello, my name is Anton or Anson Thorpe. I am I represent the organization that hired Samuel to and basically sponsored his trip to Tibet, his latest trip to Tibet, and I was wondering if I could meet with his parents."
I don't know. They were pretty specific about not letting anybody in, especially. I don't know who you are or what you are, but you seem pretty well spoken, kind of like a journalist or something. Yeah, definitely no reporters welcome.
Well, I'm not here to write an article or anything. I assure you, I'm just here basically, to be quite honest. I want to know what happened to Samuel. What caused him? What caused his death? Was it an accident? Did he jump? And if he jumped, why did he jump? These are things that my benefactor wants to know. Definitely not things that are going to be published in any publication whatsoever. Um, and I was hoping maybe his parents would like some answers as well, and I can help out with that.
Huh. All right.
Can I make a persuade roll?
Yes, you can.
Okay. I'm trying to remember the green or the purple. I'll go green. We'll
I
see.
think it's the green die.
Okay, got a hard success.
Huh. All right. Well, I think I can let you in as long as you promise that this isn't, what do y'all call it, off the record?
Oh, absolutely.
All right. Yeah, he goes back into the little shack. Um, clicks like a little switch or pulls a handle, and the gate kind of slowly opens up automatically.
All right, I'll make sure the cab is paid and on its way, and I'll start to make my way up the driveway.
All right. Yeah. It's
I
a
assume you'll
long
announce
walk.
me.
Yeah. I'll call the house from here in the shack.
Excellent. Thank you.
Let them know that you're on your way up. And the gate closes behind you as you begin your long walk up the drive. It's an exquisite house. You can easily see it's got at least 3 floors to it. A garage almost as big as the house. Taking a quick peek into the garage, you can see 5 cars, 5 expensive-looking vehicles sitting inside.
Nice.
right in front of the house. The driveway kind of circles in on itself. There is a garden with a fountain in its center. Um, but near part of it, it's been roped off with yellow police tape. And it looks like there had been blood splatter on part of the ground that had been hastily wiped off.
Okay. I'll look up from that point at the house and try and get a good reading of which window might be the one that Samuel had. I'm assuming this is from Samuel's jump. Just to try to get a read on which window he would have jumped from.
All right, if you look up, almost straight up, maybe a little bit to the right on the third floor is a slightly cracked, maybe not quite entirely smashed open, but definitely damaged window. It, from what you can tell, it swings outwards, but something went through part of the glass rather than open the windows.
Okay. So, just from this distance, I don't know how easy it would be to tell. Does it look like it's possible Samuel hurled himself at the window and smashed it
You would think if
and
he was able
he forced it open, or
yeah, you would think if he was able to get a running start, very possible he could have jumped and reached this area, or if he was thrown out the window, it would easily have reached this spot.
Right. So, no real reason to do it that way if it was him sending himself out the window. No real reason to do it that way unless he needed to be out in a hurry, like he was getting away from something. Otherwise, you just open the window and go through, right?
Yeah. So as you're standing there looking up at the window, the front door of the house opens up, and a well-dressed, well-groomed man in his 50s, black hair but with some graying on it, looks out at you and says, "May I help you?"
Yes, my name is Anson Thorpe. I believe the guard in the shack below called ahead.
Oh, yes. I'm Jon Avery. I understand
Oh,
you
wow.
wish to talk about my son and his unfortunate accident.
Yes, yes. That is why I'm here. I'm hoping to get some answers. I'm assuming you'd like to get some answers as well as to what may have happened, and I think I can help you. And he'll step forward and he'll offer his hand out for a shake, and he'll say, "I'm truly sorry for your loss."
Well, I appreciate the gesture, but my son was crazy.
I'd heard he had been hospitalized for a while.
Yes, he sought out hospitalization for his mental break that he suffered.
Well, let me ask you, what was his prognosis from the hospital at the time he was released? Did they believe he had been cured, or was he released with the caveat that he should be watched, or?
He looks at you and kind of steps outside, closes the door behind him as he talks to you. He says, "My son suffered from depression, anxiety, and hysteria. And to be honest, he would have spent most of the rest of his life, if not the rest of his life, in that hospital if I hadn't the connections that I've made over the years. See, I'm a businessman and I know a great deal of people, people who pulled strings to get him released into my care or into the care of this house.
And was this against the recommendations of those who were taking care of him at the hospital?
Of course, it was against the recommendations. It was my son, and if he was going to be crazy, he could at least be crazy behind these bars around this house. No one
Okay.
would see. No camera can take a picture of him. No nurse to be bought off.
I understand. You say he was manic as well as depressed. Had he ever tried anything like that before? Had he ever tried to do harm to himself?
Not that I'm aware of. But he hadn't been home in several years. I mean, he spent 2 years in Tibet, and I don't know what those people are like. 2 years drinking yak's milk and what else? Eating rice. Before that, he was in Shanghai for 6 months. Yeah, it's been all over the place.
I see. How long had he been living here after being let go from the hospital?
Just a few days.
Just a few days. All right.
Really broke his mother. She's been hysterics herself ever since.
Well, I can imagine. I know my mother would probably do the same if anything happened to me. Mothers are like that. I wonder if I could take a look at his room. He'll gesture upwards towards the window.
I don't know. My wife is pretty keen on keeping people out.
Well,
Even the
you have my
police.
word. If it's publicity that you're worried about, you have my word that I'm not here to reveal anything. I'm only my benefactor wishes to know what the cause of his death was definitively. Beyond the obvious hurtling to his death, but and their interest in that is not to publicize or anything like that. It's to, quite frankly, be more prepared if and when they send more people out in that area of the world.
As your
And my own hope is that if I can get to the bottom of the actual motivation, and maybe you're right, maybe it's just that he was troubled to the point where he felt, he felt he just wanted to leave. But I'd like to think that you'd like to be certain. And if I can give you that certainty, I would. That would be an honor, to help someone learn the truth about what happened with their son. That's just, to me, that's something that That's the kind of thing I like to do, is help people find the truth.
As you were talking to Mr. Avery, the door behind them opens, and a shorter woman with curling blonde hair and wearing a pink dress, carrying a very large glass of what looks like an alcoholic beverage of some sort with a whitish tinge to it, comes out smiling, says, "John dear, don't you know your manners? Why don't you invite this poor man inside?" And she comes up to you and says, "Hi, I'm Sarah Avery, Samuel's mother."
I'm honored to meet you, ma'am. My name's Hanson Thorpe.
"Oh, well, pleasure to meet you. Please come into our home. It's awfully cool out here, and the weather can turn any minute here in New England. I think you'd be much more comfortable inside the house."
Well, thank you very much.
She leads you.
Oh,
She starts leading you inside.
I'll wait for John's reaction to the whole thing, if he's okay with that, or
And he sort of nods and steps out of the way
okay.
and
I'll head on in.
gestures for you to follow Mrs. Avery.
Okay, I will follow.
She leads you into the parlor and offers you a drink. "Would you like one, my dear? It's very good."
Just a glass of water would be fine for me. Thank you.
"Oh, are you sure?"
Absolutely.
Okay.
I thank you for the offer, though.
Of course. "You can have a seat here in the parlor. I'll be back in just a moment with a glass of water for you."
Thank you.
And she sort of gleefully moves through the house in the direction of the kitchen. Mr. Avery comes follows you in to the parlor. "So tell me, Mr. Thorpe, what organization is your benefactor representing?"
Well, let's say, what's the name of the organization again?
"The International Historical and Archaeological Society."
Right. The International Historical and Archaeological Society. They essentially match potential jobs with people who do that sort of thing: historians, archaeologists, anthropologists, explorers, and they're essentially just a scientific organization, dedicated to increasing learning and the betterment of the sciences, that sort of thing.
Interesting. I'm sure they gave money to my son. Got their own ledgers to keep, I'm sure. Business is business.
Well, I must tell you the fact that I'm here at their behest. I think they believe it's a little more than just business. I'm a fairly cynical person, Mr. Avery, and I don't get to feel that they're the type of company or type of organization that simply uses people. I mean, certainly the relationships they form with the people that they fund are mutually beneficial, definitely beneficial to them as well as to the people who they're bankrolling. I just don't get the feeling that they're the type of corporation that might have lured your son in with a sense of hope, a sense of false hope, um, you know, stories of fame that he could never attain, that sort of thing. Um, I happen to know that they're truly dedicated to the sciences, but they also know that the people who do the jobs for them are limited and valuable resources that are valued very much. And perhaps it seems cold to refer to your son as a resource, but in the context of whether it's the sort of thing they would just consider to be disposable, again, I don't get that sense.
Very well. And
I mean, your son was an anthropologist, am I right?
yes, yes.
Where did he study?
Oh, he was. He went to several schools. He went to Harvard, to Yale, to Miskatonic for his graduate studies.
Excellent.
No.
Very well educated. He must have been passionate about the subject.
Oh, I'm sure, but I'm sure his mother would know more about it than I would.
Was she closer?
Yes, to be perfectly honest, I wasn't extremely close. I mean, somebody had to pay for my son to go to Harvard and Yale, Miskatonic. None of those schools are cheap, believe me.
I understand.
And at that moment, Mrs. Avery comes back into the parlor with a tall glass of water for you. She smiles, gives you the glass, and sits on the couch opposite you, right next to her husband. He's like, "Is there anything I can tell you about my son?"
Well, he will take the glass and smile and thank her with a nod. And he says, your husband and I were just speaking about your son's career, his education and his career as an anthropologist.
Oh, yes. He was so passionate about these places all around the world that he wanted to go to.
So do you think he became an anthropologist for the opportunity to travel? Or was it more of a scientific curiosity on his part?
Well, I know that he liked going all around the world. He enjoyed that very much. I don't know if that was important to him, maybe just a fringe benefit of his education.
Yeah, I completely understand. I wouldn't mind a job like that myself. I've honestly only been, I was born in Boston,
Oh,
and I live in Arkham now, and really haven't seen much beyond Massachusetts, to be honest. A little bit of New Hampshire.
yeah, well,
Um,
my son has been to some very exotic places.
yes, he was last in Tibet.
Correct. And he was so happy. I mean, the government officials there don't like Americans coming
Yeah,
into Tibet.
I'm told they could be very strict.
Yes, they are. But they're not opposed to science either, which is amazing. It's wonderful. He was able to go. They always let expeditions come in, scientific expeditions, into the country.
Let me ask you, ma'am, did you and he correspond while he was on his expedition?
Only briefly, before he got up into the mountains, he would send letters. He sent me a letter back here, letting me know where he was, um, letting me know that he was going to be spending some time up in the mountains, although I must admit it was a lot longer than he originally told me.
Yes, well, the mountains there are pretty rugged, I understand.
Yes, It's perplexes me as what really he could have been studying for 2 years.
Well, the world is full of unexplored places and undiscovered wonders that I'm sure there must have been something up there for him to be sent there.
Yes.
And it must have been fascinating, whatever it was.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
it was interesting when he was coming home before he came back to the States. He sent over a really odd package.
really,
Which I mean, I can't say that I haven't shown personal interest in. Uh, some of it was confusing. I
really,
mean, he sent a bottle of this white liquor that I'd never seen before. But let me tell you, it's very good. I don't know exactly what it is or what it's made of, but it's good. Any drink I've had it in. But
I see.
the letter that accompanied it was strange.
I wonder if it's not too much of an intrusion, if I could see that letter and that the contents of that package.
Oh, well, I don't know. You can roll a persuade check or a fast talk check.
Oh, persuade's going to be it for him. Oh, yeah, luck isn't going to help me with that one.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I'm not going to push
the
it right now.
bottle I put is in the refrigerator because I don't know about you, but I like to keep things cool.
I understand.
Everything else that has come back, that letter, his clothes, his books, all of that is in his room.
Okay. Is it possible? I had already discussed the possibility of maybe taking a look at his room with your husband. Would that be possible?
Well,
I just want to get I just want to get to the truth of what happened. What caused his mania um, that overtook him when he got home, and apparently, if that was what caused him to jump, then that would answer a lot of questions about what happened to your son. And I'd really like to help you get some closure.
well, if John goes with you,
Okay.
I don't see a problem in it. I mean, his bedroom's right at the top of the stairs and overlooks the driveway. Growing up, he
Okay.
always had a fondness of that fountain. To think might have been the last thing he saw. She kind of goes silent.
Yes. I mean, I can see where that would have been a nice view from the bedroom window growing up. Um, so if you don't mind, I'll go up and have a look and see if I can get some kind of answers for you.
John stands up and tells you to follow him
Okay.
as he leads the way upstairs to the third floor.
All
It's
right.
a
I'll follow him up.
well decorated house. There are draperies, there's artwork, there's even on the carpeting, it looks very expensive. Um, There are some exposed beams, all carved to look very Gothic in architecture. And the exposed walls are very crisp and clean white. On the third floor are a couple rooms that you can see. Most of the doors are open, but the one right at the top of the stairs, the one that John walks towards, is closed.
All right.
John takes a key out of his pocket and unlocks the door to the room beyond. And he opens it up, presses a little button on the wall, and some gas lanterns light up, so that it creates a warm light inside the room as night falls outside.
Okay. I will step inside and take a look around. What's the initial sense I get from the bedroom?
Initially, this family is definitely wealthy. This bedroom alone is bigger than the parlor that you were talking to Professor Edwards in. There are bookcases on the walls, a desk covered in papers, a suitcase on a bed that has already been, the covers have already been folded. Everything is neat and pressed. Suitcase is open. There's some unruly looking clothes inside that look like they were hastily folded. And otherwise, it's a clean room.
Okay. So the hastily folded clothes, those are where?
On top of the bed. They're inside the suitcase on top of the bed.
Yeah, I'll walk up and kind of pick through it to see if there's anything other than just clothes in the suitcase, or see if something's been, put between clothes or something, folded into something.
All right. Make a spot hidden roll, please.
All right. Oh, wow.
All right.
Hard
So
success.
you managed to take a good look through the clothes. John doesn't say anything as you're looking, but you notice on a lot of the clothes, and all the clothes are wrinkled, but there seems to be a lot of ash on several of the pieces of clothes, and on a couple shirts, a little blotches that might be blood, as if hit by someone else's blood that was spraying.
Okay.
But that's about it. Anything else you want to look for?
Well, these clothes, obviously, then they haven't been cleaned.
Correct. They
look like they've been worn, taken off, jammed in the suitcase.
Yep.
So the ash, I'm going to smell it. Does it smell like wood smoke or something different?
No, it smells mostly like wood smoke.
Okay.
There might be little hints of smell in it as like an incense type smoke, but aside from that, there's nothing that really piques curiosity in your mind.
All right. Well, I have a little bit of occult knowledge. Is it possible he may know or may get a sense of what he's thinking? maybe some sort of right. He may be wrong. It may have been, sitting around a campfire and accidentally cut his hand on a knife or something. But is
You
there
can make an
anything that
occult
fit
roll if you
any
want.
sort of occult? Okay.
You can make an occult roll if you wish.
Yep. Never mind.
Perhaps it came from some sort of ritual. Perhaps not.
Right. So nothing springs to mind though. Okay. So the sheets and the bedclothes are all nice and neat.
Yes.
Suitcase is on top of the bed. And it was open, right?
Yes.
I'll ask John. I'm sorry, did I interrupt? You trying to get his old clothes washed or something?
Oh, no, we really haven't touched the room since
Huh.
the accident. The police asked us to keep it unchanged for at least a week.
I see. So then your son had the suitcase out on his bed. Sometime between the time uh, somebody came in and made up his bed, or he did it himself, one or the other, in the morning, and the time he fell from the window.
I'm no police officer, Mr. Thorpe.
I want to take a look at the area around the window.
Of course.
So windows been left open?
It's not latched shut, but it's been shut.
They've been closed. Okay.
Um, there are curtains, but they're not concealing the window. And it's a
Okay.
floor to ceiling window.
A floor to ceiling window, and the curtains, I imagine, reach the
Yep, we reached the
floor
floor.
as well.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll pull the curtains back and kind of look beneath and under them to see if there's anything on the floor around them.
Again, spot hidden roll.
Come on, baby. Success.
I, it looks like the police did a pretty decent job, but weren't very thorough because you can still see pieces of glass, very small pieces of glass on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing else. No other visible signs of damage, unless you were to go in maybe with like a medical kit or something to help with forensics to really
All right.
painstakingly go through the floor.
Does it look like someone pushed the way out the window? You'd expect some glass to fall on the inside. You expect the majority of it to go out. Does it look like where the glass is that it's? I mean, he doesn't really have any forensics or anything, but or that type of skill. Does it look like? Does it look consistent with where glass might have fell inside had somebody hurled themselves out a window?
Make an intelligence roll.
Okay. That would be a hard success.
So the glass is broken, conceivably, if at a height of where someone was jumping through it, it would have smashed, um,
Hmm.
letting some fall back to the ground. However, it seems like a majority above the upper half of the window is at least somewhat damaged and totally missing. As if a normal sized person hadn't been the one to go through the window. And you don't know how big Samuel Avery was, but he would have to have been overweight to be able to create as much damage as he did.
Okay. All right. I will look around some more. Is there a desk or anything like that in here?
Yep, there's a desk with papers all over it.
Okay. I'm going to go over there and take a look at the papers.
All right, quickly glancing around, there's receipts for purchases of cold weather gear um, and like hiking equipment, the sort of things.
Okay. And
Um,
were those dated before he went on the expedition?
yes, this was dated
Okay.
several years ago,
Okay.
as if he had wanted to go to Tibet, but was waiting to be cleared,
Oh,
and
that's
that's why
interesting.
he was in another part of Asia for a while.
I see.
You can make one more spot hidden roll.
All right. Ah, bummer. Nope,
Yeah,
that's a fail.
you keep looking around. You do notice a piece of paper that looks of a different quality than all the other papers on the desk. Almost a fine parchment.
I will pick that up and take a look at it.
All right. You start to pull it out. You knock several other things off the desk, and John is like right there next to you. What do you have there?
Oh, I have no idea. I was just going to take a look at it and see.
All right, we'll just be quick about it. You're making a mess in here. And he
I
starts
I
to.
apologize. I will try to return things the way they were.
He kind
I
of
promise.
tries to arrange things neatly, but he's mumbling about having to get the maid up to the room and organize some of this chaos. I need you to make a luck roll now.
Ah, that's never good. Did that not go? Try that again. There it is, and it's a fail.
You see that it's a handwritten letter. Very similar to some of the other handwritten stuff that you noticed around the room. Let me open this
It'd
for
be
you.
consistent with his handwriting then?
You would guess
Okay.
so. This
All
is
right.
what you find. I don't know if it's popping up there.
Oh, interesting.
Water stained paper with very illegible but like very fine handwriting.
Oh, I wish I'd have brought my camera with me.
But as soon as you pick up the paper and glance at it, John notices what you're looking at, and reaches up and pulls the paper out of your grasp.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that yours?
I believe my wife did not wish to show you this. This is the letter that my son sent back prior to returning home.
Ah, I see it's
Just
been damaged quite a bit.
yeah,
What happened to it?
I don't know. Water, maybe. I don't know. I'm no expert at these things, Mr. Thorpe. I just pay the bills and do what my wife asks.
I see. I move on from the desk to the dresser or wardrobe or
It's a bookcase. There's a dresser
okay.
there, but there's also a bookcase.
Okay. Let's take a look at that. What
Um,
kinds of books did
the books are mostly travel guides, um, mostly focusing on Asia. There are books of like an English to Tibetan dictionary and a Tibetan to English dictionary. Most of the books, however, are just like simple adventure stories, sort of for reading for fun.
Okay, we're talking about like pulp novels or classic adventure stuff.
Like classic adventures.
Okay. Right. Um, and there's nothing on top, nothing other than books in the bookcase.
Nothing that you can readily see. All the books seem like they've been in place for a while and have a very fine coat of dust on them.
Okay, that
They
makes
haven't
sense.
been
Would have
touched.
been probably a couple years.
Yep.
Um, let's see what's next. Did he have a wardrobe or
Yeah, there's a dresser. All the
there's a
drawers are
dresser?
closed.
All right. Oh, and what's on top of the dresser?
A small shaving kit and a small mirror.
Okay. Um, I'll start to go through the drawers, I guess.
Most of the drawers are, they have like folded clothes in them. Um, all expensive clothing.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, I'll
Folded
look beneath
blankets,
and
that sort of
between.
things. Make a spot hidden roll.
It's a success.
All right, you notice hidden in the drawers, between a couple shirts, is a unloaded handgun. It's a small one,
Okay.
probably small caliber, but it's definitely there and it's hidden. No one, it wasn't meant to be seen.
All right. I'll leave it there. I won't make a fuss about it. That's people hide handguns in their dressers all the time, I imagine. For whatever reason, this doesn't seem to have any bearing on what I'm looking for. So, um, okay. And is that pretty much everything that's in the room? I'll give a glance under the bed.
Now everything seems fine. There's not much to the room.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but as you look around, your eyes drift up to the ceiling just a little bit, and you see a slight discoloration in the paint on the ceiling.
As if like water damage or smoke damage, or is it just something completely different from
Um,
any of that?
it looks slightly like water damage, almost the same kind of water damage that was to that piece of paper.
I see. And we're on the third floor, right?
Correct. Right beneath the roof. There's no attic.
Okay. So I imagine would be a crawl space up there, though. But if the roof leaked, it would also make sense that. Hmm.
Are you finished, Mr. Thorpe?
I think I've seen everything. Everything I could see. I wonder if I couldn't ask a couple more questions.
He sighs and goes and leads you back downstairs, back to the parlor where Mrs. Avery's still sitting. Doesn't look like she moved at all the whole time you were gone. Her glass is still at the same level it had been when you left the room.
Okay. Is she occupied by anything as we come down? Is she
No, and
looking, or is she just kind of sitting
she's just
there?
kind of sitting there, but as soon as you walk in the room, her head lifts up and she smiles. You find everything you were
Okay.
looking for.
I found a couple things that I have to. I think I should think about a little bit, but nothing earth-shattering, of course, except this. And he points over to the letter. I assume John is still carrying down.
Yes, he still has it.
Yeah. Except for this letter we found, I assume it was a letter from Samuel to you.
Yes, like I said, it was strange. Couldn't make heads or tails of it.
Hmm. Unfortunately, there's a lot of water damage. I can't read it. Do you remember what it said?
No, that's how it came. If I'm being honest, I
It
don't even
came
know
that
how
way.
it was used to write a letter, or why anybody would even think of using it as a letter.
I see. Can you tell me what did Samuel went to Tibet for this job, but he also, I hear he went to Shanghai
Yep.
and did a little bit more traveling. Do you know, was it just sightseeing, or was there something in particular he was looking for, wanting to do or see?
Well, he had been doing some research on some of the religious practices in that part of the world,
Ah,
and I believe he wanted to go to one of the monasteries in Tibet to see their practices. But like I said, I can't imagine what he was doing for years up there.
well, he was an anthropologist, and that's kind of the sort of thing that anthropologists like to get themselves interested in. So
Yes, but
I imagine it's
2 years.
not. Well, you never know when you
Well,
find, as someone who likes to learn things himself. Sometimes you get on the trail of something and you just get so fascinated that it kind of takes over a little bit. You get very enthusiastic about it. So I can understand how a scientist like himself, an anthropologist in particular,
I
might find
suppose.
something out there that would fascinate him enough to want to stay there for a while. I I
I
only
suppose.
sorry that in doing so he um, took away some of the time he could have been spending with you.
Yes, well, it is a shame. but it does make me curious
Yes.
about what enraptured him so much that he abandoned his schooling, abandoned his friends, abandoned his life here in Massachusetts, all for some rocks, some people in another part of the world.
It looked like he had been planning this for some time,
Oh,
even from what I was able to see and glean from up ahead, from upstairs. He seemed very, very excited to go on this trip, as you say,
oh, I'm sure he was.
and was almost looking forward to it to a point where maybe he knew what he would likely find out there. Did he mention anything about the trip to you before he left, about any specifics?
She is staring at you, smiling. No, nothing.
Hmm. I wonder, does he seem to be deceptive? Can I make a psychology roll to see if she's being completely truthful?
You can make a psychology roll, yep.
All right. Oh, regular success.
You're pretty sure that she's not telling you everything.
Okay.
And from how Mr. Avery had described her being almost hysterical, she seems to be in a almost overly happy mood.
Hmm. That was the sense I was getting before the psychology roll. um, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get in touch with our group and let them know what I found so far and see if they can maybe shed a little more light on what he was doing out there and the sorts of things he might have encountered. Um, and I will report back to you what I find. Would it be okay if I call on you in a day or two again?
Mr. Avery agrees, nods, and he gives you a business card that has his phone number on it, so that he can be telephoned.
Oh, great. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for your hospitality. I wonder if I could bother to use your phone so I could call a cab
Oh,
to come pick me up and take me back to town.
um, John says, of course, it's not a problem, and tells you that there's a phone in the hallway, right next to the bathroom.
Okay. And as I wander back to use the phone, I'm just gonna. It's obviously not a complete search, but just kind of look around the house to see if there's anything odd, that something that strikes me as being out of place. Things that might be on mantles or hanging on walls or whatever.
Um, Nothing that's jumps out at you
Okay.
as completely out of place.
All right. Yeah. So I'll get to the phone and I'll call and get a cab to come pick me up.
All right. Yeah, the guy that you speak to says that a cab can get there in about 20 minutes.
Okay. Great.
It's almost as much time as it's going to take you to walk back to the road.
All right. Well, I will thank the Averys again, and again let them know that I will be in touch with them before too long,
All right.
and I'll start making my way down to the road.
All right. Make one more luck roll.
All right. Ooh,
All right.
nailed that one.
As you're walking, you put your hands in your pocket because it's like I said, it's a cool night. Um, it's starting to get dark out. There's not a lot of ambient light coming in from the city. When you feel a crumpled up piece of paper in your pocket,
Okay.
um,
I will head down the road far enough to get out of sight of the house, and then I'll take it out and take a look at it.
um, it's that handwritten letter on the water stained paper, but on the back in large writing, large letters, is the phrase "he saw something," and that's it.
Okay. All right. I will fold the paper up neatly, more neatly than it was crumpled, put it back in my pocket, and continue down to the road.
All right. So you head back to the gate. The gate opens just before you get there, and in less than a minute, a cab pulls up to the curb outside the driveway.
All right. I will go ahead and get in. I'll thank the guard.
And he waves, and
And
the
then,
cab takes you back to the train station.
okay. I imagine it's probably not a long ride from Boston to Springfield, is it?
Um, by train, no, it's not that long. You have to wait a little while at the station though before the next train comes. And
Okay.
once you're able to board, it's a pretty quick train ride.
Okay. Yeah, I'll get back to Boston. When I get back to Boston, I will call from the station and report in
Okay.
and see if I can meet, you know, stuff I don't want to discuss over the phone necessarily.
All right. So you call um, Professor Edwards. He is still saddened by the news. Um, After you tell him what Samuel's parents told you, he's he finds it interesting, but he doesn't say much else beyond that.
Okay.
But he does tell you to get back to Arkham as early as possible, within the
Okay.
next day or two.
Okay. Yeah, I'll head back right away. I want to have somebody take a look at this paper. So,
Before you get off the phone with Professor Edwards, you tell him about the paper.
hmm
You do okay.
yeah, I'll tell him about the paper.
Okay. Um, so from Boston to Arkham, um, even by car, it's not a long drive. Um, by bus or train, it's even quicker. You can get back to Arkham just before midnight if you left right
Okay.
now.
Okay. Well, I will head home. I imagine Professor Edwards doesn't want to meet so late. So, yeah, I'll head back to my little dingy apartment and hmm, yeah, I'll call it a night from there.
All right. So I'm gonna fast forward to you being back at the house in Arkham as you're sitting with Professor Edwards, who is offering you a cup of coffee with a little sugar and cream.
Excellent. And say, I take a black, Professor.
Black, okay. And so, he pours a cup of just black coffee for you, and then asks, can I see the letter?
Yep, I will hand it over to him.
All right. He quickly, he looks at it, flips it over, looks at the message on the back that, he saw something. Flips it back and starts looking at the text, the handwritten, scrawling, and, he's starts, thinking about it, scratching his chin. Before he finally says, can't make much of this. I mean, I could pull out a few sentences here and there, but, gate to dark infinity. My eyes are screaming. Circle in the square in the circle. That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, well, his folks said that he was not quite all there. Of course, he had been in the mental hospital, so
yeah. Well,
hard to say. Although that letter that seems to be from before he went home, according to his mother. That was sent to her. Now, the odd thing is that I don't think he was alone in his room when he went out the window. I'm not one of those police forensic type guys, but just the pattern of the breakage in the window, there was a lot more glass broken out the window than would have broken with just one person going out. And the way the glass fell inside, I'm not entirely sure that, I don't know, maybe it's like something broke into the window before he went out the window. It almost seems that way. But like I said, I'm not an expert. It just didn't seem to make a lot of sense the way the glass had fallen and the way the hole was broken out of the window. Beyond that, he seemed very eager to go on your expedition, and I get the sense that it wasn't the expedition that was making him eager, but the opportunity to go out in that part of the world. The parents told me he stayed for a while after the expedition had ended. Is that right?
Yes. He had only been planning to go up there for a few months. The grant we were able to get for him was only for a few months of study. So.
Okay. So did he overstay the expedition, or did he
go
off and do his own thing afterwards?
I don't know what he was doing, but the expedition left him back in Tibet.
Yeah, his mother seemed to think that he was there. He had found a monastery out there, and he was studying the monastery, which I guess as an anthropologist, that isn't so weird. But of course, I have no idea where or what kind of monastery it would have been. Apparently, there's some correspondence between Samuel and his mother, but she wasn't willing to show it to me. And he also sent a bottle of a kind of a milky white liquid
Hmm.
that claims to have been drinking, and I think I actually perhaps saw her drinking some of it. Sounds like she's been using it as a mixer for cocktails or something.
That's
But she was behaving very strangely,
yes.
and I wonder if this stuff he sent is, I don't know, maybe some kind of opium or something. That part of the world's got that kind of stuff in it. But I don't know. She doesn't seem like the type of people you see who are on opium, though.
Yes. I have a proposition for you that I think might be intriguing.
Yeah,
Um, just before you got here this morning, I received a phone call from Mr. Avery. It
I see.
seems that he wants to know more about what happened to his son in Tibet, and is willing to make a sizable donation to this society if we hire you to go to Tibet. Is that something
Hmm.
that you would be interested in?
Well, you drop a mystery at my feet, I'm going to jump on it. But I got to tell you, I don't know the language. I don't have any contacts. Um,
Well, you would be joining Professor Ramsey's expedition into Tibet. So
okay.
there would
Well,
be another 15 Americans going there.
all
So
right. All right.
wouldn't be short of anybody to talk to. Um,
Right. And I assume I'd have somebody to interpret if I needed.
oh yes.
Okay.
Um,
Well, in that case, I always wanted to see someplace outside Massachusetts. So
that's good.
that's about as far outside Massachusetts as you can get, I think.
Oh, most likely. Well, then I welcome you to the top of the world.
Yeah. Thanks. So I imagine you've gonna be outfitting me, or I don't know much about Tibet, but I imagine I
The
hear it's colder and a little more
expedition,
rugged.
the expedition will be leaving the end of the week.
Okay.
They'll be taking a steamship called the City of Baroda, and they expect to get to Calcutta in a few months.
Oh, excellent. Well, maybe I can learn a little bit of uh, I don't know what language they speak in Tibet. Tibetan? Maybe it's Tibetan. I don't know.
Yeah, yes, I believe it's Tibetan. I'm not familiar with the region myself. That is more of what Professor Ramsey and Mr. Avery's area of expertise.
Got it. Well, it's a deal, Professor.
All right. Well, I believe that's where I'm going to end the session, as
Okay.
it's going to be going into Tibet next.
Fun.